Tonight, Electoral Commission in desperate attempt to avoid being in contempt of court as it appeals to High Court to granted permission to extend deadline for implementation of law that will allow Ghanaians abroad to vote by a year. As the EC awaits the court's decision to operationalize RUPAL by January 2020, we tell you why there's already stiff opposition. Also tonight, struggle over capitals for newly created regions as government asks interest groups to back off, as only the president has the power to decide the location of capitals.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
Top Story is always brought to you by Bond, your success, our passion. Also brought to you by Gas and Cement, the nation builder. Voter for the future is exciting, ready, and Nationwide Health Insurance. Well, the Electoral Commission is tonight appealing to the High Court to allow it permission to extend the deadline for implementing the law that will allow Ghanaians living abroad to vote by a whole year. In fact, the Electoral Commission has written to the court indicating that it will like permission to implement, to operationalize that law in January 2020. Remember that in the last hour, we are learning that the individuals who dragged the Electoral Commission to court on this matter, forcing it to implement the RUPAL by the ending of last year, were in the process of filing processes in court that will cite the Electoral Commission for contempt of court. But Electoral Commission seem to have gone ahead of that and filed a case in court tonight in the desperate attempt to avoid being dragged to court for contempt and appealing to the court to allow them to extend that deadline by a year. We have a copy of the Electoral Commission documents filed at the High Court. My colleague Joseph Gakpo brings me a copy of that. And Joseph, just a background to this. We recall that lawyer Samson Ladayenini had represented a few Ghanaians living abroad, and they had won that case. They had insisted that the Electoral Commission had failed to implement a law that was on our books to allow them to exercise their franchise wherever they are in the world. In fact, they won that case, and the court then was emphatic in declaring that the Electoral Commission should enforce and operationalize that law and gave them a timeline that expired, I think, December 17,
December
2018.
18, yes, because this was a decision on the 18th of December 2017.
Yeah. So
that directive expired 18th of December, that's 2018, a little over a month ago. And the court, which was presided over by His Lordship Anthony K. Yeboah, delivered the judgment in the case with various consequential orders. And the court specifically did order that the first respondent in this case, which was the Electoral Commission, should operationalize the Act 699 within 12 calendar months from the date of the judgment, and the ultimatum eventually expired on the 17th of December 2018. And the order was that, yes, they should ensure that they are given the opportunity to vote within that particular period, and the deadline was the 17th of December 2018.
So the Electoral Commission, well, the deadline was 17th of December 2018. We are, today is what, 11th of February. That is possibly 2 months. The deadline has expired for 2 months now. They are in breach of that. And just before we came on, I got wind that the lawyers for the plaintiffs in the matter were in the process of filing processes in court that will drag the EC for contempt of court. But the EC appears to have acted tonight to try and avoid that.
So they filed an affidavit, Jean Mensah, the Electoral Commissioner herself, has filed an affidavit in support of a motion requesting for an extension of the time for the implementation of the judgment that was delivered by the court on the 18th of December 2017. And so the Electoral Commission and the Attorney General are some of the parties in the case, and then Kofi Boateng, Ajenim Boateng, Nelly Kemevo, Obedankwa, and Christian Selim, who were the applicants in the original case, are actually those who are also representing the other side in the case. And here, the Electoral Commissioner seeks to explain how come they've not been able to implement that court judgment more than a year on. And she explains that the others could, there was what the Electoral Commissioner describes as serious leadership challenges, eventually leading to the removal of office from the Electoral Commission, the commissioner herself then, in reference to Charlotte Osei, and also the deputy commissioners. So
the Electoral Commission is referring to the changes that we saw last year at the Electoral Commission that saw the exit
of Charlotte Osei and her deputy commissioners and her coming in. And it's one of the reasons she's given for how come they've not been able to implement this particular directive by the court. She explained in her affidavit again that the prolonged leadership challenges at the Electoral Commission stalled various decision-making processes at the management level and made it impossible for them to operationalize the act within a year as was directed by the court. And she went on to explain that the Electoral Commission could not constitute a committee to carry out the orders of the court, again because of the said prolonged leadership challenges at the commission relating to her predecessor, Charlotte Osei, and her deputies. And Jean Mensa again indicates that the EC was again unable to implement the order of the court because additionally, even beyond the leadership issues, they had another national assignment which they brought to an end recently. The issue having to do with the referendum on the creation of the new regions. And so they say that they did not disobey the court, and it's not as though they wanted to disrespect the court. But because of those two issues, the leadership issues, and even when the leadership issues were resolved, the national assignment in relation to the referendum had to be dealt with. That's how come they didn't act on that in time.
They also talked about how they've been busy with the referendums that we saw and also the creation of the new regions. Okay, so when are they saying they will be able to operationalize this?
So they explain in the document that they've since begun the processes to operationalize this and even inaugurated an implementation committee chaired by Deputy Chairperson of the EC, Dr. Bosman Asare, which the committee, in consultation with the general public and various stakeholders and even the people in other countries, are coming up with the various details on how external voting should take place and the appropriate processes with regards to the implementation of that particular directive. And so the Electoral Commissioner is making a request that they are asking the court to use its power and authority to extend the time which the Electoral Commission had been given to operationalize that particular act for the benefit of the EC and persons who have been affected by the operationalization of that particular act with regards to the directive. And so the Commissioner says, in the circumstances, I pray for the extension of time for 12 calendar months ending January 2020 to enable the Electoral Commission herein take the necessary steps as ordered by the court in its judgment to allow for the said Ghanaians abroad to be able to vote.
Okay, so what it means is that if the court agrees to this appeal from the Electoral Commission, the ROPAL, which in essence will allow Ghanaians living abroad to vote, will be operationalized by end of January 2020. What also that means is that whatever elections that will be held after that, the main one being the general elections in December 2020, will include Ghanaians, wherever they are in the world, also voting, which is a fascinating point of this application to the court tonight by the Electoral Commission. I'm delighted to say that we've just been joined on the telephone line by one of the leading applicant, plaintiff in the case, one of the plaintiffs in the case, Dr. Kofi Boateng, who is joining us live from New York. Dr. Boateng, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So the Electoral Commission is appealing to the court to implement the ROPAL by end of January 2020. Are you in support of this?
Absolutely not. Decidedly not we are again, they are in full contempt of the order of Dr. Judge, His Lordship Judge Anthony Yeboah, that was given, as you said, December 18, 2017. Let's correct some facts here that are cited in their. I'm familiar with the application for extension, and so let's correct some facts. And the corrections themselves also show contempt. It shows that the Electoral Commission and their attorney representative, legal representative, are not even paying attention to the language of the order of His Lordship Anthony Yeboah. For example, the order of mandamus, which is the order for the Electoral Commission to act, to operationalize Act 699 ROPA, that order was given by the court on December 18, 2017. Please bear with me. And specifically in the act, the judge was very careful when it said, the judge said that they have 12 months to come up with a constitutional instrument and lay it before Parliament. The judge was very careful to clarify how you count the 12 months. And I'm quote item 5 in the order on page 41. It says that they should operationalize 699 within calendar 12 months, reckoned from 1st January 2018, by having a constitutional instrument for the modalities of implementation of 699. So reckoned from 1st January 2018 means, you there? Means that it expires December 31, 2018, not December 18, 2018.
So the Electoral Commission themselves got it wrong in the application to the court.
They got it wrong. They got it wrong in their own application for extension. And I'm going to tell you what that leads to. Okay? So that means that if they had read it and knew that it actually expired December 31, they had even if they were pressed, as they are claiming here that they were pressed, we'll come back to that in a moment. They had an additional 14 days. My goodness, for an organization and institution that does nothing but elections and draft constitutional instruments, even in the dead of the night, they had an additional 14 days to draft this CI and comply with the order by December 31, 2018. They failed to do this. Secondly, and this is very important, they are very, very, very application for extension is dated January 30, 2019. January 30, 2019. Not quite a month ago. That's when that is dated. Guess what? They were completely in breach, completely in contempt by January 30, 2019. Because, again, His Lordship Anthony Yeboah was very clear to tell them in item 6 that if they had any problem, they had 30 days off within 30 days of the expiry of the 12th calendar month, meaning they had till November 30, 2018 to inform the public for reasons for their failure to so comply. November 30, 2018 has long expired. We were watching it carefully. They did absolutely nothing. And they come here with January 2 months later to come with some made-up excuses. And now I'm going to come to their excuses. First, they say that it was because of the change in leadership at the EC, which is a reason that delayed them drafting this year. Guess what? During the time that the former EC was dismissed, Charlotte Osei was dismissed, there were 3 commissioners. This verdict, goes to all the commissioners, all of them. And any one of them can work for the 7 of them. And there were 3 of them that were drawing salaries and working, okay? So they cannot come and say that, oh, because we had change in leadership, we couldn't do it. The commissioner's agri-fin was on staff.
Fundamentally, let me. So fundamentally, what is? Are you still going to cite them for contempt?
Of course, we have to. Why not? And let me tell you why. The ROPA was enacted into law 24th February 2006. That is 13 years almost. 13 years ago. And the same YEC for 13 years has found excuses not to operationalize it. What makes us believe that if they are giving extension to January 20, which, by the way, they are wrong, they say they want 12 months extension. They are really asking for 13 months extension because they miscounted. There's no faith. They haven't established any faith for anybody to believe that for elections planned to be held in December 2020, if the EC is giving extension to January 2020, that they are going to comply and implement ROPA around the world. That is something you tell a child. All their actions up to this point have demonstrated that all they are interested in is to make the implementation of ROPA a second-class activity. And they are saying it themselves. Number one, because of change in leadership, they didn't do it. Number two, because they had to do the referendum for the 6 new regions, they didn't do it. So they are admitting that whenever there's another activity assigned to them, such as even a by-election, ROPA will go on the back burner.
Have you already filed a case in court objecting to this appeal that the EC has put forward?
Our lawyer, Samson Anyenini-Ladi, is in the process of filing, and you'll see his response within 24 to 48 hours. Yes, indeed. Okay, we've been working with him. And we are also going to file a contempt. Each one of the 7 should be hauled to court because by their own admission, they have made ROPA secondary to everything else. And by their own admission, they will always postpone the implementation of the law of the land when something else comes up. They are admitting it. They are saying because of the regions, we couldn't do it. Because of changing in leadership, we couldn't do it. So tomorrow there will be a by-election somewhere, and there's, because of the by-election, we can't do it. Then come January 2020, they'll say, because Parliament needs 45 days to review the CI, the draft, so there's no way that we can go outside Ghana, register people, and also oversee.
But just before we came on air, though, I spoke to the one of the deputy chairpersons of the Electoral Commission. He tells me that they've already started processes. They're meeting They've already started processes meeting various stakeholders, and in fact, tomorrow they are meeting with some interest groups. On Friday, on Wednesday, they will meet with the political parties, and that they are confident that this will be enforced as they have requested the court in 2020 to allow you to vote in of course in December that same year. You don't have faith at all in that, I guess.
Yeah, how can you have faith in somebody who has delayed paying you if they owe you a debt? And for 13 years, they always give you an excuse. Come this morning, come in the afternoon, come in the evening, come tomorrow. Oh, I said come tomorrow yesterday. Tomorrow hasn't come. How can you have faith in dealing with anybody like that?
Well, I'm grateful that you joined us. That is Dr. Boateng. He is one of the plaintiffs in this matter. The Electoral Commission says, they are insisting. This goes to court tomorrow, by the way, and the court will hear this matter. It'll be interesting to see what the court's verdict is on this, but the Electoral Commission indicates that they already began the process. You should remember they formed this committee, which in itself was contested, and meeting with various stakeholders. They formed a committee of other interested parties, including the political parties themselves, and they'll be meeting this Wednesday as they round up consultations on how to implement the ROPAL. Well, still on Top Story here on Joy 99.7 FM, it is the president's prerogative to name where the capital will be, and there is nothing like involving somebody in the process of naming a capital. Now, that is the uncompromising stance of government in the wake of increasing agitation from various communities in newly created regions across the country, all demanding one thing: the location of capitals in their areas. Well, what you're hearing there is a protest in the Bono Hafo today, specifically the people of course, in the Bono East part of that country, demanding tonight that the capital be situated in their part, in Kranza to be very specific, and they are accusing the government and the Minister for Regional Reorganization of deliberately ignoring them in the process of situating a capital. Well, Nana Owusu Jumo Ameyal III, who is the chief of Boabing and Kranza, has been speaking.
Choice of the president and the minister and his deputy of regional reorganization and development. We believe that it will be wrong to carry out only these factors in deciding the location of the regional capital. Why are we not looking at the landmass, looking at the population, looking at the security, looking at the availability of the natural resources, and more importantly, the centrality and accessibility? Among others are more important considerations. It will therefore be wrong to limit the selection criteria to an already developed area, which will defeat the original and the purpose of the Bono East creation. Kranza traditional area are also concerned and worried about the statement circulating in the social media purporting that the people of Nkranza traditional area are Ashantis, and therefore naming Nkranza as a capital of Bono East region will mean an extension of Asante Kingdom into the Bono East region. This statement is unfortunate because before February 1979, the whole of Bono Ahafo region was part of Western Asante.
Well, the youth in that community backs this.
Nana Akufo-Addo told us he was going to divide the Bono Ahafo region and give us the Bono East region. We were overjoyed and voted massively for the referendum. We were persuaded by the fact that Nkranza, having a bigger territory, would be considered for the regional capital. After submitting petitions to the president, through the Honorable Minister Damboche for the selection of the regional capital, we realized that Nkranza has been left out. We sincerely believe Nkranza has been deliberately eliminated from the process. We want to tell the Honorable Damboche and Ejie Kosa that the capital belongs to Nkranza and nothing else. The Omahini of Nkranza has been a two-time president of the Regional House of Chiefs. They asked us to vote against John Mahama, and we did, and we want to tell them that we will not be cheated if they refuse to make Nkranza the capital.
Also tonight, they were hearing similar concerns from the Northeast region as well, one of the other newly created regions in the country in the last few months. Mashood Isufu is a spokesperson for the Wale Wale Youth Advocacy Group, and they are also demanding the situation of the location of the capital in Wale Wale and nowhere else.
Government and other civil society organizations, before we went for the referendum, stated that concentration and attention will be given to areas with existing infrastructure. And we are saying that based on those statements that were made, it is important for government to depend on the technocrats and the experts, that were given the opportunity to go down and do assessments and feedback reports. They should use those reports and they should work on those reports. They shouldn't let the decision of regional capitals lies on the traditional authorities. That we think would be a big doom. Especially if you come to the Northeast Enclave and see what is in Wale as compared to the other areas, I would wonder why would want to snub Wale and move the capital to elsewhere because of a call what do you call it, a suggestion by a traditional leader. Even though, yes, the Nayiri is a respected king, he is our father, he is someone that we all adore. But one thing people have forgotten to know is that after that statement, he has issued another statement, and that statement is now stating that anywhere the capital is sent to within the Mampruk enclave, he endorses it, because every area in the Mampruk enclave is his territory. So we are now saying that based on this new development and comments from the Nayiri, government should now work with the expert documents that are presented so that we will see the development agenda move faster in the area of Northeast region. So considering what is in Northeast region and Walwale for that matter, we are saying that if we snap Walwale and move the regional capital to any other areas, then we are going to cause a lot of problems, because remember, government is giving only 20 million Ghana, what we call the city, as a city capital for the start of the new region. So we should focus in areas that have the existing infrastructure, so that government would not have to spend much in going to rent apartments, in going to rent offices, when we have areas that have existing offices and existing accommodation for government staff.
So that is a concern from the Northeast region. Let's quickly return to the Nkranza concerns that had come up. They wanting the Bono East region's capital to be in Nkranza. We can speak to the chief of Bwabing of the Nkranza traditional area, Nawusu Jumo Ameyao III. And I thank you for your time here on Top Story. We heard from the minister today, the sector minister, regional reorganization, Damboche, who spoke to us and said the concerns that you put forward, they are baseless, because the petition that came before the president, which the president is considering, came from a coalition of Bono East chiefs. And as part of that petition, this controversy over whether it should be Bron or Bono was settled, because the chiefs themselves had indicated that they wanted the thing Bono, and the capital itself has already been discussed. What's your reaction to that?
Thank you very much. I'm grateful, and good evening to your listeners. Nana Usu Damwa Miao, the third. It's Damwa, it's not
Thank you very much, sir. Yes. And your answer is?
It's Damwa.
Yes. Thank you very much. I noticed. I'm grateful. What's your reaction to the minister's point today?
I'm very disappointed in the minister saying that our issues are baseless. I think in this 21st century, I don't think a minister will come out and tell Nkranza people that our issues are baseless. So my question here is, if it wasn't Bron and it is Bono, then why the East? We have Bono and Hafo region, so why the East? Then it should have been Bono region and not Bono East. So I don't think the minister can come and then tell us that it was settled.
I understand that the president is meeting several chiefs starting tomorrow. Are you part of those who will be meeting him?
And that is what we are saying. We have been let out. We have been sidelined.
So you haven't been invited to meet the president?
The meeting that took place in Sunyani last Thursday, in Nkranza Traditional Council, wasn't part. And it was based on that meeting that the president is inviting. If we have heard that the president is inviting, it's through the press statement of the Minister of Information. And I think we respect the president so much, because we gave our assent much to the president. So whatever the president is saying, we can't object to that. But what we are saying is the concerns that we are raising should be addressed by the minister, but he shouldn't come and tell us that what we are saying is baseless.
I'm grateful that you joined us. That is the Nana Owusu Damwa the third, who is the chief of Nkranza. They're speaking to us about their concerns as laid out today. News Night starts right now.